in the midst of everything that was going on, over in New York, there was also a triple shooting, but there is also a proposal to have a mask ban. And I find that ironic because remember just a few years ago, it doesn't even seem like that long ago. Remember just a few years ago that there was a mask requirement. Now, that mask requirement didn't necessarily apply to people that were protesting, especially when it came to the 6 feet no check, 6 feet in distances. You couldn't even get into an elevator unless it was only 2 to an elevator and you had to stand on one corner and the other person had to stand on one corner. But it was a triple shooting over in New York. And while there is a triple shooting, there is also a mask ban that is coming along that's basically trying to prevent people from hiding their faces while doing crime. Now, I always thought that the mask requirement was a weird way to go about doing things because, A, it didn't necessarily protect you from the vid. We all know that now, obviously. But B, it then allowed for criminals to walk around with poo shiesty masks and nobody could stop them. It allowed for criminals to walk around with poo shiesty masks on. Now, I know a lot of my people that's out here in these streets, they don't necessarily know what a poo shiesty mask is, but it's basically a robbery mask. It's the one that go over your whole head and your face and it's only your eyes. That's the poo shiesty mask, all right? But let's go ahead and check into New York and see what's happening over there. And then we're going to talk about this whole mask ban that's coming over, that's being handed down from the governor, Kathy Hochul, and then being embraced by Eric Adams, the mayor of New York, after we talk about the triple shooting.
Well, 2 people killed and a third injured after shooting near a subway station in Upper Manhattan. This happened just before midnight, and so far there have been no arrests.
All right, Fox 5's Lisa Evers joins us live from the scene with the latest today. Lisa.
Well, Steve, all day long, detectives have been combing this neighborhood, going door to door on the stores and businesses here, looking for information about this triple shooting that left 2 men dead, a third man wounded and recovering in his nearby apartment.
Look at all those migrants in the background. Hold on, check it out. They said, "Oh, the news is shooting over there." Hey, look at the migrants in the background, y'all. Oh, no, we don't want no problem.
A third man wounded and recovering in his nearby apartment.
Nope, we're not going that way. Keep going.
And
my man grabbed her and said, "Keep going."
The idea that their safety worries are justified. The crime scene tape went up at 10th Avenue and West 206th Street Sunday night, just before midnight. In these surveillance videos we obtained from sources, you see the gunman come out from behind a parked vehicle, assume a shooting stance, and the flash of the first bullet fired. From another angle, you see him aim at 2 men on the street. He fires multiple shots.
Scary that it happened like that. People just getting killed and dying on the street.
The NYPD says a 44-year-old man was shot once in the face and later died at Harlem Hospital. A second man, 40 years old, was shot once in the chest and killed. A third man, who was 37 years old, was shot in the leg. People here are now even more worried about what's going on.
Very concerned about safety. People don't want to go outside anymore. It's really bad for business.
How did we get to this place? How did we get here? I thought we cleaned up the streets of New York. What was the mayor that cleaned up the streets of New York? Giuliani? Which mayor was the one? It wasn't Bloomberg. Which mayor cleaned up the streets of New York? How did we get here? I thought that New York was fixed. We got it together. We got all of the graffiti removed from all of the trains and stuff like that. It became more of a tourist destination. And now look where we at.
I believe that it's getting out of hand. The amount of violence that is surging in this neighborhood is like going back to the 80s when I was a little girl growing up in this neighborhood.
The deadly shootings happened right near the 207th Street No. 1 train station and close to busy bus routes. It's an area many who live and work here use daily, but now they're having second thoughts.
Very concerned, especially when you have family members. Everybody walks around the street. It could be, maybe they were a target, I don't know. But it could be a shooting. Anybody could be hit.
God forbid, you're walking around with your family, all of a sudden that happens. People also confuse you sometimes, kill you. It's bad.
Now, one of the main questions that detectives are trying to answer right now is whether these victims were the intended targets. They still don't have a decisive answer on that yet. We're also not getting the ID of the victims yet until all of their family members are notified. As for that suspect, police are telling us that he was dressed head to toe in black, as you saw in the surveillance video that we showed you, with a black face covering, and that he got away on foot right here on East 206th Street. So, of course, they're looking for him and asking anyone with information to call 1-800-577-TIPS. You don't have to give your name. We're live in Inwood. I'm Lisa Evers, Fox 5 News. Back to you in the studio.
Yeah, I heard that Bishop Lamont Whitehead wound up getting a whole bunch of time. I heard he got like 8 or 9 years and he was sentenced. We might get to that at a different day or on a different time. But anyways, this is what's going on with the mask ban over in NYC.
An onslaught of anti-Semitic violence and targeted activity happening all across the city recently. Governor Kathy Hochul is now considering reinstating a pre-pandemic law.
Yeah, that would actually ban people from wearing face masks while riding the subway. Let's get right to Good Day's Briella Tomasetti. She's tracking the story from the Upper East Side to explain the reasoning for it. Briella, good morning.
Yeah, Tashani and Dan, good morning to both of you. As part of the governor's initiative to crack down on hate crime, state police will increase their presence at high-risk community sites. The mask ban, in the meantime, will largely focus, but not entirely focus, on the subway system, which is, by the way, home to millions of daily riders.
Why do people feel the need to be able to still wear masks in public in a general sense? I understand if like you're a celebrity and you try not to get noticed, you're going through the airport or something. But when I see masks in public, like let's just say in New York or a major city or people walking downtown, I just automatically start getting suspicious. Unless it's like an old person or an elderly person or something like that. Prior to the pandemic, the only time that I had seen people wearing masks were in California and then in Asian countries like China, because the manufacturing was so heavy that the air was so difficult to breathe, and it was basically toxic for you to breathe the air. And so a lot of people was wearing masks as a result of it. And then over in California, in a lot of California, and you had a lot of Asian people that were moving over to California in a general sense also, that the smog in the air was so bad at some points that a lot of people were wearing masks. And so this was something that largely came out of that whole sentiment. Hey, y'all, let me get a shout out and a round of applause for my girl Molly that pulled up on the panel last night. And Molly didn't catfish her. She actually looks like her picture. Shout out to Molly for that. Let's continue.
We will not tolerate individuals using masks to evade responsible for criminal or threatening behavior.
In a reversal from the COVID era, Governor Kathy Hochul is considering a partial mask ban
Thank you, Phil. I'm
on
gonna be
New
reading
York
that super
City
chat shortly.
subways due to an alarming uptick in anti-Semitic crimes.
Raise your hands if you're a Zionist.
On Monday night, a group of pro-Palestinian demonstrators donning masks infiltrated a subway car, taunting Jewish riders and urging them to get off the train. On Tuesday, police say vandals targeted the luxury apartment building where Brooklyn Museum director Ann Pasternak lives, smearing hate speech on the front entrance with red paint. Police released this surveillance video of the suspects. Surveillance video also captured another anti-Semitic incident happening on the Upper East Side. Watch as a U-Haul truck pulls up near the Palestinian Mission to the United Nations building on East 65th Street, unloads at least a dozen passengers who then litter the area with red paint and...
All of these people should be arrested, charged to the fullest extent of the law, and thrown in jail. Every last one of these people should be arrested, charged to the fullest extent of the law, and thrown in jail. Real talk, straight up. All day long. And these are all paid actors. These are people that are literally spending their dollars and their monies, and they paid to come in and cause chaos and confusion, and they need to be jailed and charged to the fullest extent of the law. If this was happening with any other group of people, we would not be this passive about it.
Flyers which read in part, "Long live the Intifada."
So the State Police Hate Crimes Task Force is working with local police to investigate these crimes, and I have directed our state police to increase patrols in sensitive locations all over New York.
Cowards hide their face.
Mayor Adams echoed the governor's concerns during an interview on Katz and Cosby on 77 WABC Radio. And while the two leaders don't always see eye to eye, Adams said he'd support a partial mask ban.
And I think now is the time to go back to the way it was pre-COVID, where you should not be able to wear a mask at protests in our subway systems and other places.
I agree. It's one of the first things that I actually agree with. Not one of the first things, but a big first thing that I actually agree with Eric Adams is that if you are at a protest, you should not be able to wear a mask. You should not be able to hide, be a paid actor, go in, disrupt, and you should not be able to wear a mask at a protest. If you're going to go to an event that allows for you to then be able to cause chaos, disruption, and be a part of the circus, you got to be able to show your face. You can't hide. You got to show your face, and I agree 100%.
Well, Mayor Adams giving a stamp of approval today for a proposal that would ban masks in certain settings.
All right, somebody said that's not right. For the government to take away a person's right to wear a mask to protect their health. No. Listen, think about it. All right, so let's evaluate this, Eunice. That is not right for the government to take a person's right away to wear a mask to protect their health and others. Okay, so if you're trying to protect your health, why would you be at a protest? Why would you go to a large gathering where everybody is surrounding each other and it's basically shoulder to shoulder and it's confrontation and touching and all of that stuff? Because we're not talking about people that are just trying to get to and from work or, whatever, so on and so forth. We're talking about people that are at protests. Specifically, what Eric Adams said, and I agree with it, is if you are going to go to a protest, you should not be able to wear a mask in New York, especially with all of the concerns with terrorism. And we got all of these migrants in there, these paid actors, and they continue to disrupt and cause taxpayers' dollars. No way. I disagree with it 100%.
Fox 5's Morgan McKay joins us now in studio with a closer look at where they would and would not be allowed and the reaction it's getting from the healthcare community in particular. Morgan.
Hey, Stephen, Bianca. Mayor Eric Adams making it clear he not only supports a mask ban on the subway and at protests, but he is actively making calls to state lawmakers to implement such a ban.
Cowards cover their faces.
Mayor Eric Adams throwing his full support behind a proposed mask ban on the subway and at protests. This following recent anti-Semitic incidents, including one where a man on the subway told any, quote, Zionists to get off the train. Adams says that a mask ban will make it easier for the NYPD to identify offenders.
People are using masks to commit crimes, to commit assaults. The difficult thing for the police department is defining suspects because of their full covering.
Governor Kathy Hochul mentioned the possibility of reinstating a mask ban at a press conference last week. New York previously banned masks for groups of 3 people or more under a law dating back to the 19th century, when upstate tenant farmers dressed as Native Americans and violently attacked landlords. The law was lifted when the COVID-19 pandemic struck in 2020, when riders were then required to wear a mask on the train.
I asked storekeepers to have people pull down their masks before even temporarily.
After Adams' comments on Monday, some health advocates poured onto social media expressing outrage. Dr. Lucky Tran said, quote, "This is absolutely reckless and will endanger the lives of all New Yorkers. This must be stopped." While Hochul said certain exemptions would be made for people who need to wear a mask for legitimate reasons, she didn't go into detail on how that would be enforced. Any sort of mask ban would need approval from state lawmakers, who are not set to return to Albany until next year. However, they could return this summer for a special session to discuss a new funding stream for the MTA after Hochul yanked the rug out from congestion pricing. Danny Perlstein with the Riders Alliance says that Hochul should focus on funding transit.
The governor needs to focus on funding the transit system.
No, the governor and the mayor's job is to focus on safety and funding the transit system. It's not just about one thing. You can do 2 things at once. That's why they have the job. Their job is to focus both on public safety and to make sure that everything is properly funded and to reduce the possibility of something happening, not just respond to it after it happens.
And turning on congestion pricing and not wading into these controversies like masks, like the National Guard, like we've seen with metal detectors.
And a spokeswoman for New York Attorney General Letitia James also telling me today that the
Letitia
AG
James.
is in discussions with Hochul and lawmakers over the push to bring back New York's mask ban, saying, quote, in New York, no one should be able to hide behind a mask to spew hate.
And I agree with that 100%. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is what's going on over in New York. They are trying to make sure that if you are going to be one of the perpetrators that's out here in these streets, doing these protests, making it difficult for everyday people to get to and from where they got to go, and then be out here committing crimes and technically what they're labeling as hate crimes, you're going to have to pay the cost and you should be able to show your face. Stand up and actually be one of them ones. You know what I'm saying? Let me read.